All right, legends, it is round 3 of the 2025 AFL Premiership season, and these are our footy tips for it. We're going to revisit last week real quick. I believe I got 7 out of 9. I tipped the Hawks, I tipped the Pies, I tipped the Crows, I tipped the Power, I did not tip the Saints, I tipped the Lions, I tipped Melbourne, and I tipped Sydney. So I got 6 out of 8 because Suns and the Giants had the bye. So let's move on to round 3 and let's have a look at the lineups here. I'm just going to try and fix the website because it always loves to stuff me around here. We've got the Bombers and the Power. Now this is a tough one to call. Marvel Stadium, Essendon kicked 100 points on the weekend against the Crows. Even though the Crows gave them a bit of a shellacking, Essendon kicked 100 points on the weekend. So they didn't... the only thing they didn't do well was defend. I thought their mids played okay. Merritt was unbelievable. But their forwards played alright too. They had to get those 15 goals on the board. So 15-10 or whatever they kicked. I'm going to tip the Power though. I think the Power have come away from the Richmond game with a bit of confidence. It's a bit of a stinker of a game. I know it's 16th versus 11th, and no one really wants to see this game on a Thursday night. But I am going to go with the Power. I think Geordie Sweet will be very good in the ruck. I think he'll silver service the Power mids all day, and I think the Power will run them over the top by about 4 or 5 goals in the end. That's the first tip of the round. The second tip is... I don't know how Carlton keep getting so many of these fucking Friday or Thursday night games. Stick them on a fucking Sunday arvo where they belong, because Carlton have just put up shit games the last few weeks in terms of pushing up daisies against 2 really good opponents that aren't that good. The Richmond aren't that good, but they still lost anyway. Anyway, let's pick the Bulldogs because, again, I'm not picking Carlton. I do not trust them until they give me a reason to. If they come out and beat the Bulldogs by 85 points this week, then next week I will pick Carlton. But until that happens, I'm going to tip the Bulldogs. They played all right against the Pies. They only went down by a goal, and there was a lot of free kicks against them. Whether they were there or not is not really up to discussion. That didn't really matter in the end. But we're going to tip the Bulldogs by 10 points. I think it'll be a close, interesting game to watch. This is probably the hardest one to pick of the round for me. It's the Suns versus the Demons at the MCG on Saturday at 1:20 Melbourne time. Really, really tough. $1.94 to $1.90. So even the betting agencies can't figure out who they think the favourites is going to be. The Suns are barely favourites in this. 6th versus 15th is very tough. There's something going on at Melbourne at the moment. I don't like the way they're playing. The Suns absolutely dominated a fortnight ago. I'm going to tip the Suns. I have to pick them on form. I know they don't really like playing at the MCG like a lot of interstate sides, but Dimmer has a lot of players on that team that have played for Richmond and MCG specialists, so to speak. So I don't think the fear will be there as much as it normally would. So I'm going to tip the Suns by about 4 goals over the Ds. I think the Ds should turn up this week, though. I wouldn't be too surprised if the Ds do come out of the blocks pretty hot and have a red-hot crack. But picking them on form, they are really, really not in form at the moment. So they lost to the Roos by 10 goals. So this is another tough one, though. The Marvel Stadium, 3:45, St Kilda and Richmond. I'm going to tip the Saints for this, but that's only on the back of Richmond went and travelled to Adelaide and got absolutely spanked by the Power. It was never in doubt, really, but that was a real hiding. But they're a bunch of young kids, and I think round 1 was an anomaly, and I think we're back to the status quo now. I think that the Tigers aren't going to do well where they're going to keep travelling. If they had the first 3 or 4 games in Melbourne to start the year, I think they'd go all right. But I'm going to tip the Saints. They played good footy for 3 quarters against Geelong, and then they kind of let them back in it. But I think that's a big confidence booster for them, and they need to try and push that momentum forward and keep going. So I'm going to tip the Saints by not too much. I think about 15 points, roughly. That might be the way to go for that one. I'm going to go to the next game, which is Hawthorn and the Giants at Tasmania, of all places. 7:30 game in Tassie. University of Tasmania Stadium, Launceston. Hawks are favourites at $1.47 versus the Giants at $2.68. That's probably about right. I'm going to tip the Hawks. They do play that Tasmania Stadium very well. And the Giants have got a long way to go to get down there. So, I don't know. I think the Giants having a week off hurts them too. I think the Hawks have played 3 really tough games and they've come out on top of all of them. And I think they're going to continue that momentum going forward until it's their turn to have a bye. I really rate the way the Hawks are playing at the moment. They're probably them and Adelaide are sitting top of the ladder for a reason. Those two are the most informed teams at the moment, which is crazy to think about when, the start of last year, Crows were 0-4 and the Hawks were, barely going to beat a team all year before they turned their year around. So the Hawks by 5 goals. Then we go to another tough one. This is not an easy round of tipping. The Cats versus the Lions at the Gabba, because the Lions were not convincing at the Gabba at all this week. But I am going to tip them because they are at home. Geelong have had an injury to Tom Stewart, which is really going to open up their defense, I think. And I just think that the Cats, I don't know, I think the Cats might rescheduled match. Oh, this must be from round 1 or opening round, eh? It says rescheduled. Anyway, there you go. I'm going to tip the Lions by about 4 or 5 goals on that one. I just don't think the Cats, having Tom Stewart there, that's going to hurt their defense a lot. And Brisbane have a really good forward line, so let's tip the Lions. Crows versus North. At the Adelaide Oval, you'd expect the Adelaide Crows would come out and absolutely pump them, but I think North are going to have a bit of momentum coming out of their 10-goal win over Melbourne. But playing it at the Adelaide Oval, I think that there has to be a fair win to the Crows again. I'd say about a 10-goal win for them. North have a lot of experience thrust into their lineup now, which is probably a real good thing in Parker and Darling and Daniel to help out the young'uns. But I think that travelling over to Adelaide just with that group might not suit them. I think playing at Marvel definitely does. Adelaide Oval not so much. So let's go the Crows by 10 goals. And then we've got the Derby over in WA. This one is 17th versus 18th. If you are from WA, what a grim situation it is over there with your two football clubs. And obviously you can't see, but the Pies and Sydney have the week off. Let's tip Freo because they're not as bad as the Eagles at the moment. So that's basically the tips. Freo, Adelaide, Brisbane, Hawthorn, St Kilda, the Suns, the Dogs, and the Power. What did you guys think about those tips? Let me know in the comments below who you guys are tipping this week. I will try and leave a comment of the teams that I've picked so that you guys know. Thank you for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you made it all the way to the end, thank you so much. I really appreciate your support. You guys are a bunch of legends. We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now. Peace.